Thank you all so much for being here. Happy Saturday. We are excited to have you all. This is a groundbreaking moment for us. Y'all get to be involved in our inaugural, our first ever Study Smart Tutors Education Conference. Give yourself a hand. My name is Jordan Vargas. I am the Senior Director of Education here at Study Smart Tutors. I'm going to be co-emceeing with Pete Petroff today in the back. A few housekeeping items for today before we get started. We're going to have restrooms around the corner outside, a little bit of a walk. We have plenty of food in the back. I know they're kind of putting it away right now, but please take things with you as you go. You do not want to be taking that home. Outside of that, I think we're here to have fun, to participate and learn and grow and network together. I'll highlight, that phrase right there in italics. Your participation today is not just valuable, it is vital. Study Smart has come a long way the last 10 to 12 years, and it wouldn't be possible without the people in this room. And so today is a celebration of us, celebration of y'all, and celebrating first-gen achievement, if I'm not mistaken. That's our theme today. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome up Dr. Julia Odebas, our Vice President of Education, who is really leading the charge on this initiative. Got this thing up and running from inception until this point. So yeah, let's give her a round of applause. Dr. Odebas, a school counselor, his background has now been with us, 5 years?
5 years.
5 years serving in this capacity. I'm just so thankful for her work and excited to have this moment. Very good.
While Jordan can speak freely, I have to read it my speech. So here's the big difference between us. But I'm so excited, super honored to be here. It's exciting to see so many similar faces, so many new faces. There's a reason behind this title and this conferences. Everyone has a story about pandemic. In 2019, when 2020, when the pandemic hit, everybody has their own way to cope during that lockdown time. Some of us doing the sourdough bread, some of us doing online virtual 5K. I was doing my dissertation. Mine is now fun as much as yours, probably. And my dissertation is about the first-gen students' challenges in retention. And as you can imagine, how depressing or double depressing for me to read over and over about the challenges our first-gen students are experiencing over a decade. And during that time, this is really the one and only light for me to keep moving forward. The Study Smart Tutors, yours, educators' impact in the communities. The work that you do with your students, with your school, with the communities. And that kept me going. And we decided this time we want to celebrate. I think it's too long that we did talk about the challenges and struggles for the first-gen students are having. Now we are just going to celebrate it. I'm hoping we shift our focus to celebrating their accomplishment and recognize your role in those success. This year's team building opportunity celebrating first-gen achievement perfectly captures the spirit. Let's spend today exchanging ideas that inspire, strategies to empower. Your hard work, your passion, and your compassion and belief in the transformative power of education, what makes our effort successful. I encourage you to share your stories and your success with your students, and these are the true measures of our impact. Thank you for being here. Let's just have this conference not memorable, like Jordan saying, valuable, but also vital. Have fun, and we are so happy to have you here. Thanks so much.
So before we introduce our esteemed keynote speaker today, we want to give you all a little bit of a sneak peek or some context into the work that has been accomplished by this individual. And so I'm not going to dive into it too much. We're just so honored and thankful to have this person here. But we would like to play a quick clip from something that this individual has been transformative in. So let me open this up. We'll get this going. Ready?
Mexican American. No, you're Mexican or American. You can't afford one or the other. I'm a Chicana, born and raised in the USA.
All we did was drive across the city, and it was like we were in a whole new world. There's so much to learn. They have books in German. They even have Spanish. I can't even speak Spanish in our schools. Don't people realize how we're being treated?
Now, one piece of crap. You're learning your history from people that don't know your history.
Are you guys tired of this? Well, we might have something to change it.
Paula is one of our best students, but she's fallen in with a radical crowd.
How do you listen to those people? They don't care about you.
We're gonna walk out tomorrow.
Every choice has a set of consequences.
You are risking everything. Lincoln, let's walk out.
I don't agree with what you were doing. They had the right to teach your kids better.
All right. So I feel like I have probably one of the best spots here at Study Smart Tutors today. And as Jordan mentioned, my name is Pete Petroff, and I am the Associate Director of Education here at Study Smart. And I have the honor and privilege of introducing our keynote speaker today, Ms. Paula Crisostomo. Paula has been a beacon of advocacy for first-generation students and a passionate leader in education reform. She's going to share her invaluable experiences and insights. With a lot of the work we do here being in LA Unified, Paula is a product of LA Unified District and is a first-generation college student. As Dean of Students at Occidental College, Paula was responsible for all policies, services, and programs for students of color, for first-generation students, LGBTQ, and women students as well. While at Oxy, she celebrated with first-gen students and first-gen college administrators to establish the First-Gen Club. She established special speaker events and a graduation for first-gen students and families. Paula was also co-director of the Multicultural Summer Institute. MSI is a 6-week residential program designed for incoming first-gen students who are interested in social justice work. Paula partnered with LAUSD in 1999 and 2000 to design, write, and win one of the early Gear Up grants. The grant program still exists and has grown to become Gear Up for LA. And if you know anything about Study Smart Tutors, we have had an over decade-long relationship with Gear Up for LA. So it is again my privilege and my honor to welcome Paula as our keynote speaker here today. No.
Wow. Good morning. Thank you for that nice introduction and for such a warm welcome. And thank you, thank you, thank you for delaying the rain today. I'm honored and grateful to be with you today. Now, you should know I'm not an educational expert, nor am I an academician. as you probably guessed from the HBO trailer, I'm a community activist. And I've been involved in educational achievement issues for underrepresented students for more than 50 years. So many years ago, when my hair was a different color, and I was a high school senior in East Los Angeles, I helped to organize and lead a high school walkout that to this day remains the largest organized demonstration of high school students in the country. Thousands of East LA high school students staged a peaceful walkout. Thousands more students across the country walked out of their classrooms in support of our cause. Our schools were inferior in every way. Our teachers, our counselors, and our administrators believed that educating us was a waste of time. Our educational experience was tailored to the lowest common denominator of labor and how to use our hands so that when we left school, we were qualified to work in a factory, to clean houses, or to join the military. Now, of course, nothing's wrong with any of those, but we were never given the choice. We were conditioned not to have any dreams or aspirations of being a doctor or a lawyer or of even going to college. We accepted and internalized the boundaries that the world had placed upon us. But there was a handful of Chicano college students and one lone teacher who recognized the racism and the oppression we were subjected to at school. And these angels stepped up and became our role models, our mentors, and for some, surrogate parents. Now, tutoring as a social concept didn't exist at that time, at least not in my world. But those same angels stepped up to tutor us, to guide us, to coach us, not only with academic skills and study habits, although those were important, but more importantly, they demonstrated that they believed in us. That unlike the school system, they knew we had value. Now all students learn who has value and who doesn't. And unfortunately, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We leaned heavily on that caring teacher and those college students, and they generously gave their time, their wisdom, and their encouragement. They showed us to see a world that I never thought was possible. because of what they taught, because of how they made me feel, I knew that I could get past those invisible barriers, and I could dream of being a doctor or a lawyer or of going to college. Their care, their attention, and their presence convinced me that just because I grew up in an impoverished neighborhood did not mean that my life was a foregone conclusion of drugs and crime. It didn't mean that I was destined for failure or that I was incapable of going to college. They filled me with hope and resiliency. I learned that my defects did not define me. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. There's a Native American principle that teaches that the decisions and actions we take today will affect 7 generations into the future, and that how true sustainability is achieved. I'll echo that principle throughout my talk today as I refer to how broad-reaching your tutoring efforts are. Your students may act indifferent, even apathetic, but they're watching you and they're listening. They will remember how you made them feel. To paraphrase Maya Angelou, your students will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And you never know where your influence stops. For instance, Casey Weld heard me speak more than 10 years ago. Whatever I said resonated with him, and it mattered to him so much that he remembered me, and he invited me here today to speak. 10 years later. You never know. Being a tutor is a hard job. It can be rewarding, like when your student's face lights up or their eyes brighten and you realize that they finally understand a concept you've been explaining over and over again. But it's hard, especially if your energy level is low because of your other life demands. I know that some of you may still be students yourselves. Some of you may have families or another job, or that you're involved in a relationship. Your lives are complicated. I get it. It gets kind of messy. And being a tutor is challenging work, especially when your patience is worn thin. Sometimes the thought of one more session, one more paper, or another test can be overwhelming. particularly when you know that you gave the information to the same student at least 5 times. I know you've had days where you felt like, I just can't do it today. But you show up anyway. And I guarantee you that through your hard work with your students, you don't realize the difference you're making in their lives just by showing up. You have the power to change the trajectory of your students' lives. Alice Walker said that the most common way people give up their power is by not realizing that they had it in the first place. Tutoring is powerful. Research shows that for students from low-income families, tutoring is one of the most impactful educational approaches. In fact, of all interventions studied by the study out of Stanford, tutoring was both the most common and the most effective intervention. Tutoring can create a strong relationship between student and tutor. Successful tutors foster real relationships with students. And importantly, those relationships can be meaningful. A positive student-tutor relationship may benefit a student's well-being in addition to any academic impact. Now, this is important to keep in mind during a time of heightened rates of depression and anxiety among our youth. You are a rare, brave breed. You knew what you were getting into when you took this job. You knew the challenges you would face, yet you took the job anyway. You took the job because you believe in educational justice and equity, because you believe that to create opportunity for success, every child must be given an equal chance. More than 1 million American children each year do not finish high school. Now, this number represents almost 25% of high school students in the United States. Some of these dropouts will go on to get their GED, but approximately 10% of young adults enter the workforce without a high school credential. School failure penalizes a child and therefore the entire family. The student who leaves school has fewer life prospects. This can be seen in lower initial and lifetime earnings. They will have more difficulty adapting to rapidly changing knowledge-based economies, and they will face a higher risk of unemployment. And this problem is even more severe among students of color. Dropouts are often from families with low incomes, low earnings, and low education. Students from low-income households drop out at 4 times the rate of their peers from high-income families. And those that do graduate, only 15% of them will graduate from college. And roughly 50% of college students today identify as first generation. So not only are youth not graduating from high school, but they're not being prepared to compete in the job market of the 21st century. We know that educational attainment plays a pivotal role in increasing the ability of low-income Americans to move up the income ladder. Inequality of income for one generation may mean inequality of opportunity for the next generation. So given how important education, and in particular, a college degree are in the labor market, these trends give rise to concerns that last generation's inequities will continue into the next generation, and opportunities for upward mobility will be diminished. Are we willing to sacrifice a generation to the underclass? A college degree can be a ticket out of poverty. A low-income individual without a college degree will very likely remain in the lower rungs of the earning ladder, while a low-income individual with a college degree could land in the highest rungs. It's our obligation to open doors of opportunity for everybody. Education is not a privilege. The quest for educational justice is a continuous struggle, and we cannot rest. We must remain vigilant and adapt to changing needs. We need to show students where to look, but not tell them what to see. We shouldn't ask, can they learn? We should be asking, how will they learn? Now, your students will have many influences in their lives, but trust me, your influence could be pivotal, not just to your students alone, but to their families as well. As your students will share what they learn from you with their parents, their grandparents, their siblings, their cousins, and their friends. And I'm not just referring to the academic skills. And those angels who guided me early in my life. How I wish they could see me now and the impact that I've made. If they could see what their teaching, what their caring produced, what their sacrifice produced when they were burnt out or fatigued, but they still showed up and provided guidance, or maybe just a friendly conversation. They planted a seed that continues to grow for generations. Now, some of your students will go on to do amazing things, and they'll be successful. But for some of your students, you can be the very reason that they defy the odds against them and achieve success. I want you to understand and recognize the profound impact you can have on your students and their families. I'm not exaggerating. This isn't hyperbole. You see, I'm from a family of 8 children. I grew up in East LA in public housing, also known as the projects. My father was a janitor. My mother was a stay-at-home mom and a community activist. I had 6 brothers. Today, I have 3. The other 3 died of unnatural causes. A gunshot, drug addiction, and drunk driving. Now, we were raised by the same 2 parents in the same house. But I know in my heart, had it not been for those mentors, those tutors, those role models who believed in me, who encouraged me on a consistent basis, who showed up even when they were tired, even when they wondered, will this even matter? I know, had it not been for those angels, that I could very well have ended up like one of my siblings. Their consistent presence in my life mattered, and it made a difference. Your students will put up a wall because they don't know if they could trust you. They may question the value of education. After all, no one in their family or in their neighborhood has an education, and they seem to be doing all right. And recently, the idea that a college education isn't necessary has floated about. That going to college does not guarantee success. And yes, that may be true for certain segments of the population. But research shows that it is not true for students of color from impoverished neighborhoods. Without a college education, the population of students that you work with will likely remain in very low-paying jobs. Latinas are quickly becoming the majority in this country. And almost 75% of the students in the LA Unified School District are Latinas and are recently immigrated families. And Latinas have the indefensible distinction of being the least educated ethnic group in the country. The least educated. Lack of education leads to poverty and all of the baggage that poverty carries with it. Education levels the playing field. Now, I know that you care about your students, and I know that you have high expectations of them. Students will stay in their comfort zone and follow the path of least resistance. And it may be up to you to help your students find a support network so that they don't fall through the cracks. Your students have to know that they deserve whatever benefits your help comes. They have to know that they deserve it, even if they are the first. When first-generation students go to college, that action impacts the entire family, creating a college-going culture and a value for education. When first-generation students attain a college degree, they are 5 times more likely to move out of poverty. Your acts of sacrifice and decency creates ripple effects that can lift up families and communities and create opportunity. You're making a difference. A study found that TRIO and other college access programs increased college enrollment by 12 percentage points. Siblings, parents, cousins, and friends begin to realize that a college education is possible. And it's that possibility that can absolutely transform lives. Now, you work with your students for a very short period of the day. The majority of the day, that student is in the classroom. And chances are, the classroom is under-resourced, is loud, maybe overcrowded, and even the well-meaning teacher is frazzled. Classrooms are not structured to handle differences across students in learning style, learning pace, and accumulated knowledge. These differences make it difficult to individualize instruction in a classroom setting where students have widely varying skills, knowledge, and educational needs. When these challenges are combined with the high level of disadvantage that so many children face, it's not surprising that so many struggle to keep up and that so many just give up. So as a result, students who fall behind grade level material tend to stay behind. When these students miss developing foundational skills, they can have major difficulties in subsequent learning tasks, which worsens the gap between their grade level peers as they move from one grade level to the next. This persistent mismatch between the learning needs of students and what classroom instruction delivers can seriously undermine students' chances of success in the classroom and the workforce and beyond. Tutoring provides individualized attention, allowing for a tailored approach to address the unique learning needs of each student. Through your one-on-one or small group face-to-face sessions, you have the power to correct that deficiency in classroom instruction and help your student improve and succeed. Compared to regular classroom instruction, tutoring increases time on task. It increases the amount of feedback and instruction between student and instructor. And that is a key characteristic of effective teaching. And it improves student attitudes and interests. Tutors help their students realize what they're capable of. And once they come to this realization, they become motivated, and it becomes easier for them to press on to more complex lessons. Tutoring provides a critical safety net that addresses individual student needs, raises their self-esteem, boosts their confidence, and develops a crucial foundational skills that will improve their chances of graduating from high school, achieving the many long-term economic impacts that go along with academic success. For decades, education researchers have understood that tutoring generates important benefits for learning. And I know it's hard to believe, but a slow and steady process of reform is taking place. Things do not change overnight, and these kinds of changes can be characterized as glacial in nature. Yet such changes are cause for optimism and hope. But the most important change is in the students themselves. And a large part is thanks to you and your hard work. So while progress is being made, there's still so much more to do. But I'm encouraged and I'm strengthened by what I see today. Your presence here today demonstrates your willingness to be part of the solution. You sacrificed your Saturday morning to come to this conference today to learn how to better reach your students. On behalf of your students, I thank you. Now, when I helped to lead the walkouts many years ago, the rest of the world defined us as a bunch of poor Chicano kids from East LA who were destined to become the next generation of undereducated, cheap labor. But we knew we were better than that. And we knew we deserved more. Today, your students are looking for more. And ladies and gentlemen, you are that more. Thank you for your attention. Thanks again for inviting me. I'm grateful and honored that you have listened and stayed.
All right, thank you so much, Paula. We are incredibly excited to also look into some of the questions that were asked by the audience. In no particular order, I'll look through a few. Let's see, Paula, I've got, what was your main driving force to keep going and stay positive about the walkout outcome? Were you afraid?
So that's two questions, huh?
Two questions.
The main driving force was seeing, I don't want to presume that you've seen the movie, but if you do see the movie, and I do recommend it, it seems like we pulled it off in 2 weeks. It actually took 2 years. So it was in that 2-year period, without the internet, without cell phones, blah, 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 that we met with everyone we could think of. And we got belittled, we got patronized, we got outright ignored. And we were only asking for a better education. Nothing crazy, so we thought. So we realized that if we were going to really make a difference, we had to pull off something that was going to gain attention. And the walkouts at that time actually gained national attention. And yes, I was scared as hell. It was mixed emotion. I was afraid, I was excited. This had never been done before. What if I was the only person who walked out of school? It could have happened. Thank you.
You mentioned something about social media, the internet. You didn't have this opportunity to generate buzz in the capacity that it can be generated now, right?
Right.
And so with that, we see the positives, we see the negatives of social media and its impact. So one individual in the audience asked, how do we encourage students of color to seek higher education when they are so easily influenced by social media fame and making fast money?
Yeah. Now that's a really tough one, especially since I don't really understand the power of social media. Is it fleeting? Is it long-lasting? I think that's a question that we're still, and then now they're talking about AI, which is scary to me. But if AI is going to take over, then what happens to the influencers, or whatever they're called? Right?
Yeah, a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
TBD.
I got that. Yeah.
Awesome. One more question, and there are plenty, but I think this is a nice one to kind of end up and recap everything. What is the biggest gap that you still see that exists in our current education system? Maybe not biggest, maybe one or two, I don't know.
Yeah. As much as things have changed, a lot hasn't changed, unfortunately. I see Republican politics being a big gap. Excuse me. I recently immigrated families, especially from the Central and South American countries, who have no idea of everything that we've struggled for, who don't understand, is another one. But what has remained the same is that all parents want the best for their children. All parents, especially those who have traveled through dangerous pathways to bring their families here, they want the best for their children. So I'm really glad that you also work with families, because parents absolutely have to be invited to the table to encourage, and so that you can do the 7-generation principle. That's a pretty awesome principle, huh? The Iroquois Nation, by the way, I should give credit.
Well, thank you so much again. Can we have one more round of applause?